Imagine waking up tomorrow morning. The sun is coming through your window and for a moment everything feels normal. You reach for your phone to check the time and maybe scroll through a few messages. But instead of the usual notifications, you see something. Every news channel, every app, every website is showing the same headline in big bold letters. Global conflict has started. Markets are flashing red everywhere you look. Experts are shouting on television with serious faces and urgent voices. Your phone starts buzzing over and over with breaking news alerts. And in that moment, millions of people around the world all do the exact same thing. They open their investment apps, the little applications where they keep their savings, and they start selling everything. They sell because fear tells them to get out. Save your money. Protect yourself. Do something right now. But here is the strange part that almost nobody realizes. At that exact same moment, while regular people are panicking and selling, some of the smartest investors on earth are doing the complete opposite. They are buying. Not randomly. Not recklessly. But according to a pattern that has repeated itself for more than 100 years of market history. And today I am going to show you something that might completely change how you think about crises, markets, and fear. Because the biggest danger during a crisis is not the war itself. It is not the conflict. It is not the headlines. The biggest danger is panic. And panic has made more people poor than any market crash ever did in the history of the world. Human brains are truly amazing organs. They developed over hundreds of thousands of years to help our ancestors survive in a dangerous world. They helped people avoid wild animals, escape storms, and react to immediate threats. But our brains have one small problem when it comes to investing. They are designed to react to immediate physical danger, not to financial markets. If a tiger jumps out of the bushes right in front of you, running away immediately is the correct decision. You do not stop to think. You do not analyze. You just run. That instinct saved your ancestors' lives countless times. But the stock market is not a tiger. The market is more like the weather. Sometimes storms come. Sometimes it rains for a while. Sometimes it looks really scary outside. But storms always pass eventually. And people who panic during storms often make the worst possible decisions. They run outside into the rain. They drive too fast on slippery roads. They do things that make the situation worse instead of better. Yet when fear spreads across the news, something strange happens to groups of people. Rational thinking seems to disappear completely. Suddenly everyone becomes obsessed with one single question. How do I escape right now? How do I get my money out before it is too late? But escaping the market during a time of fear is often like jumping out of a boat just because the waves got bigger. You might feel safe for a moment floating in the water. But you might also be jumping out at exactly the wrong time, right before the waves calm down and the boat sails on without you. Now we need to talk about something that most people never realize, something that is rarely explained in schools or even in financial advice books. The financial news industry does not make money when you are calm. It makes money when you are scared. Think about this for a moment. If a news website publishes a headline that says market slightly declined today but long-term fundamentals remain strong, how many people do you think click on that article? Almost nobody. It sounds boring. It sounds like nothing is happening. But if the headline says global markets collapsing, disaster unfolding, panic spreading, everyone clicks. Everyone wants to know what is happening. Everyone wants to see if they need to do something. Fear keeps people watching. Fear keeps people clicking. And the longer people watch and click, the more advertising money the media companies earn. So the entire system has an invisible incentive built into it. Not necessarily to lie to you, but to magnify fear, to make things sound more dramatic than they really are. A normal market drop of 2%, which happens all the time and is completely ordinary, might be described as markets in free fall. But historically speaking, a 2% move is just another normal day in the markets. It is like calling a cloudy afternoon a hurricane. It grabs attention, but it does not tell the full story. And when you add the fear of a world crisis on top of that, the headlines become even more dramatic. So you have to understand that the news you are seeing is not neutral information. It is content designed to keep you watching. And that changes everything about how you should interpret it. Let me tell you a story about two investors. We will call the first one Alex. Alex is smart. He has a good job and works hard. He managed to save $40,000 over several years and invested it into simple index funds that track the whole market. But Alex has one habit that might be hurting him. He watches financial news constantly. Every alert on his phone. Every headline that pops up. Every panel discussion with experts arguing about what might happen next. Now imagine Alex wakes up one morning to breaking news. A major conflict has started somewhere in the world. Markets are falling in countries all around the globe. Experts on television are talking about disaster and uncertainty and risk. Alex watches the coverage for hours. He cannot look away. Every expert says things like uncertainty and crisis and risk and danger. So Alex thinks to himself, I need to protect my money. I need to do something before it is too late. He opens his investment app, looks at the red numbers everywhere, and sells everything. Every single share. He feels relieved for a moment. He believes he made the smart decision. He believes he saved himself from disaster. Now let us look at the second investor. Her name is Maria. She has the exact same $40,000 invested in similar funds. She sees the exact same news headlines. But Maria does something different. Instead of watching the news for 3 hours and letting fear build up inside her, she checks one historical statistic. She looks at what happened in past crises. Then she turns off the television. She puts down her phone. And she goes to work like it is a normal day. She does not sell anything. She does not panic. She just continues with her life. Here is the surprising truth that most people never hear because it does not make dramatic headlines. Markets do not usually die during wars and major conflicts. They dip. They panic. They fall temporarily while everyone is scared. But then something unexpected happens. They recover. And over time, they often go on to reach new highs. If you look back over the last century, you will see that markets rose during many major conflicts. Why does this happen? It seems counterintuitive. But wars trigger enormous amounts of economic activity. Governments suddenly start spending huge amounts of money on all kinds of things. They spend on equipment and technology and logistics and infrastructure and manufacturing. Companies receive massive contracts from the government. Factories start running faster and hiring more workers. Entire industries grow and expand. And all of that economic activity flows into the stock market eventually. Company profits rise. Stock prices follow. History shows something fascinating when you study it carefully. Markets drop temporarily during the outbreak of conflicts because of fear and uncertainty. But they almost always recovered. And sometimes they grew even stronger afterward than they were before. This does not mean war is good. War is terrible. War causes suffering and loss and pain. Nobody is celebrating disaster. But the stock market is not a moral judge. It is simply a machine that tracks the flow of money through the economy. And during conflicts, money flows in ways that surprise people who only listen to the news. Here is where Alex made his biggest mistake, the mistake that cost him real money. He did not just sell during a moment of fear. That was bad enough. But then he waited to buy back in until he felt safe again. He sat in cash, watching from the sidelines, waiting for the world to feel calm and certain. But markets do not wait for people to feel safe. They do not send you a notification saying it is okay to come back now. The biggest recoveries often happen very quickly, sometimes in just a few days, sometimes in weeks, before the news has even stopped being scary. Research from major financial institutions has shown something shocking over and over again. If someone invested $10,000 in the stock market for 20 years and simply left it alone, never touching it, never panicking, their investment could grow dramatically through the power of compounding. But if they missed just 10 of the best market days during those 20 years, their returns could be cut in half. Missing 30 days could destroy most of the growth entirely. And here is the strangest part that sounds like a trick but is actually true. The best days in the market often happen very close to the worst days. They cluster together. The crash and the recovery are almost the same event, happening in the same period of time. So when people panic and leave the market during the scary days, they often miss the rebound that comes right after. They sell low, and then they watch from the sidelines as prices go back up without them. While Alex sat in cash waiting for safety, waiting for the world to feel normal again, waiting for the perfect moment to get back in, Maria followed a simple strategy that did not require predicting anything. She stayed calm. She continued investing regularly, the same amount every month, just like she always did. She focused on long-term assets and ignored the daily ups and downs. She treated market fear like a temporary storm, because that is what it has always been throughout history. Storms eventually pass. The sun comes out again. Over time, something interesting happened. Maria's portfolio kept growing. Not because she was lucky, but because she stayed invested and let time do its work. Meanwhile, Alex waited and waited and waited for the perfect moment to buy back in. But perfect moments rarely appear in investing. By the time he felt safe enough to buy, prices were already much higher than where he had sold. He ended up buying back at a higher price than he sold for, locking in a loss and missing the growth. By the end of that period, Maria's portfolio was worth much more than Alex. Not because she was a genius. Not because she predicted the future. But because she simply did not panic. Now let us talk about what the smartest investors in the world actually do when fear is everywhere. They do not try to predict exactly when the market will go up or down. Nobody can do that consistently. Instead, they follow a few simple principles that have worked for generations. First, they stay diversified. They do not put all their money in one company or one industry. They spread it out so that if one part struggles, other parts might balance it out. Second, they keep some cash available. Not because they are scared, but because having cash gives them options. When prices drop, they have money available to buy more at lower prices if they choose to. Third, they think in decades, not days. They understand that a few bad months or even a bad year is just a small part of a much longer journey. Fourth, they ignore the predictions. They know that experts on television are paid to have opinions, not to be right. And fifth, they stick to their plan. They made a plan when they were calm and thinking clearly, and they follow that plan even when they are scared. Here is the lesson that most people never learn, the lesson that separates those who build wealth from those who struggle with money their whole lives. Fear feels intelligent. When everyone around you is scared and panicking, doing nothing feels irresponsible. It feels like you should be doing something, anything, to protect yourself. But sometimes the smartest action during chaos is simply patience. Doing nothing can be the hardest thing to do, but it is often the best thing to do. The market rewards discipline over time. It rewards patience. It rewards people who can sit still while others are running around screaming. Not speed. Not panic. Not predictions. Just patience and consistency. If you study market history going back more than 100 years, you will notice something interesting. The worst days for the market are almost always followed by some of the best days. It is like the market overreacts in both directions. It falls too far on fear, and then it rises too fast on relief. The people who panic and sell on the worst days are almost always the same people who miss the best days that follow. They get hurt twice. Once by selling low, and again by missing the recovery. This pattern has repeated so many times that it is almost boring. World War I, World War II, the Korean War, the Vietnam War, the Gulf War, the Iraq War, the Afghanistan War, countless conflicts in between. In every single case, the market dropped initially on fear and uncertainty. And in every single case, the market eventually recovered and went higher. Not because the wars were good, but because the economy kept moving forward and businesses kept earning money and people kept working and buying and selling. Why do so many people panic sell even when they know it is a bad idea? Because selling provides immediate relief. When you are scared and anxious and worried, doing something feels good. It feels like you are taking control. The relief is instant. The pain of missing the recovery comes later, slowly, over time. Our brains are wired to prefer immediate relief over long-term gain. That is why panic selling is so common. It feels right in the moment. It stops the anxiety. It lets you sleep at night. But that feeling of relief is expensive. It costs you future growth. It costs you compounding. It costs you the peaceful retirement you might have had. So the challenge is not just knowing what to do. The challenge is training yourself to tolerate the discomfort of doing nothing when everyone around you is screaming. So what should you actually do to prepare for the next crisis? Because there will always be a next crisis. That is just how the world works. First, build an emergency fund of cash that covers several months of expenses. This money is not for investing. It is for peace of mind. Knowing you have cash means you do not have to sell investments at a bad time if something happens in your personal life. Second, diversify your investments so you are not dependent on any one company or country. Third, write down your investment plan on paper. Include a note to yourself about why you will not panic sell. Read it during calm times so you remember it during scary times. Fourth, limit your news consumption during crises. You do not need to know what is happening every hour. Check once a day, maybe less. Fifth, remember that the world has survived every crisis in history so far. This one will pass too. Have you ever wondered why wealthy people seem to get wealthier during and after crises? It is not because they have secret information. It is because they have a different relationship with fear. When prices drop, most people see danger. Wealthy people see opportunity. When everyone else is selling, they are calmly buying. They have cash ready. They have a long-term perspective. They understand that temporary drops are the price of admission for long-term growth. They do not panic because they have seen this movie before. They know how it ends. Not exactly, not with specific dates and numbers, but they know the general pattern. Fear passes. Markets recover. Patient people are rewarded. So next time the world feels uncertain, next time the headlines are screaming at you, next time everyone around you is panicking, remember this. There will always be headlines. There will always be experts predicting disaster. There will always be fear and uncertainty. That is just the background noise of life. But the people who quietly build wealth over decades are usually doing something very simple. They ignore the noise. They follow a plan they made when they were calm. And they stay patient while everyone else is panicking. Because fear makes people sell. But patience builds wealth. Fear makes people poor. But patience makes people free. If this video helped you understand markets and fear in a new way, hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. And in the comments, tell me one word. Tell me calm. Just calm. Because in the world of investing, calm is one of the most valuable skills you can ever develop. It is not about being the smartest person in the room. It is about being the calmest person in the room when everyone else is losing their mind. Thanks for watching. And I will see you in the next video.